Hey there! Ready to unlock a little mystery?
A mystery. I'm intrigued.
One that impacts all of us, actually. It's about Google search.
Google search.
Yeah.
Always a hot topic.
Right. You might not even realize it, but behind every Google search you do, there's this whole battle going on.
A battle? For what?
For the top spot in those search results.
Makes sense. Everyone wants to be number one.
Exactly. And today we're going deep on something called Google Search Core Updates.
Core updates. Okay, I'm listening.
They're these big behind-the-scenes changes.
Changes. Like what kind of changes?
Significant ones. They can really shake things up for websites. Big time.
Oh, I see. So that's why we're calling it a mystery. Most people probably don't even realize these updates are happening.
That's exactly it. But they're a big deal. Google's goal with these updates is to, well, they have this phrase for it, to show the most helpful and reliable results.
Helpful and reliable results. So basically the best possible answers to your questions.
Exactly. So it's not like websites are getting penalized or anything like that.
No. It's not about punishment. Think of it like this.
Okay.
Google actually uses a really cool analogy to explain this whole thing.
Okay, I like analogies. Lay it on me.
They compare it to the restaurant scene.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, like, think about how your favorite restaurant list might change over time.
Yeah. For
You know, new places open up, your tastes maybe evolve a little bit.
That's so true.
Right. Maybe you're just looking for something different. Like, I used to love this little Italian place downtown, but they changed management, and the menu is just not the same.
Totally. I get that. It's like my go-to coffee shop. They got rid of my favorite drink.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
And just like that list of yours changes, Google's constantly reevaluating what's considered helpful for people searching.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's less about punishing certain websites.
That's right.
Yeah.
And more about recognizing the ones that are consistently giving a top-notch experience.
Kind of like those go-to spots you always crave. Okay, I'm with you so far. But let's say I think my website, I don't know, maybe took a hit from one of these core updates. What's the first thing I should do?
Hands down, your first stop should be Google Search Console.
Okay, Google Search Console. For anyone listening who's not familiar.
Yeah, it's like your website's report card.
Straight from Google. So it shows you how your site's doing in search.
Yep, and can give you some clues about what's going on.
That makes sense. And actually, the source material we're looking at today really emphasized this checking Search Console. But what should we even be looking for in there?
Well, one of the biggest signs that something might be up is if your website's position drops for certain keywords.
Hold on. When you say drops, how big of a drop are we talking before I need to start panicking?
Good question. The source actually gives some specific numbers on this.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you drop from position 2 to 4.
Okay, that doesn't sound too bad.
Probably not a huge deal. That kind of thing happens.
Right.
But let's say you drop from, say, position 4 all the way down to 29.
Whoa. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's a much bigger red flag. Something to pay attention to.
Wow. Okay, that's a big difference. So let's just say I'm listening to this and, I don't know, maybe starting to sweat a little about my website right now. What should I do?
It means it's time for a little self-reflection. The source gives these really helpful self-assessment questions.
Interesting. Self-assessment, like for your website.
Yeah, they can help you figure out if your site is really serving the people who visit it. You know, your users.
That makes sense. So it's less about, I don't know, trying to trick Google or something.
Right. And more about, honestly, looking at your content, like asking yourself, is this actually helpful?
Would I find this valuable?
Exactly.
That's a good point. It can be really helpful to get feedback from others, too. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just need that fresh perspective, you know? It can help you see areas for improvement that you might have missed.
I totally agree. So let's say you've done the self-assessment and you realize, okay, maybe my website could be better, more user-friendly. What kind of changes should you think about? Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, for sure. The big thing to remember with these core updates is this. They're not about those quick fixes or sneaky SEO tricks you see online.
All right, that makes sense.
Google's looking for long-term, meaningful improvements. And they're all about your content, what they call people-first content.
Okay, so what does people-first content even look like?
Well, think about it like this. Imagine you land on a website and it's just this wall of text.
Oh, yeah. Not very inviting.
Right, you probably just click away.
I know I would.
But what if you land on a page and there are visuals, clear headings, maybe a video,
Okay, yeah.
maybe even an interactive quiz? Now you're more likely to stay, right,
Yeah.
and actually engage with the content.
That's a good point. I definitely would.
And that's what Google wants to see.
Gotcha. So it's all about creating that better experience for the actual person visiting the website. not trying to fool some algorithm.
Exactly.
I can get behind that. But I'm guessing making these kinds of changes takes time, right?
You're absolutely right. The source actually says it can take anywhere from a few days
A few days?
to several months
Several months. Okay.
to really see the full impact of the changes you make.
So patience is definitely key here. You've got to trust the process, focus on creating the best possible content.
For your audience, yes.
Right. But the internet's constantly changing too.
Oh, absolutely. User expectations are always changing. New content's being created every single second.
Yeah. It's a wild world out there.
It really is. It's a very dynamic landscape.
Yeah.
So, some ups and downs in your search rankings, it's totally normal.
It's like the stock market. Some days you're up, some days you're down. But as long as you've invested in,
Solid companies.
right, you're in good shape for the long haul.
That's a great analogy. And it applies perfectly here. If you're consistently putting out high-quality content that people actually find valuable,
Yeah.
you're setting yourself up for success no matter what happens with Google.
Google has emphasized this again and again.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
They want to reward the websites that are genuinely focused on providing a great user experience.
So it's like a win-win. You create awesome content that people love, and Google rewards you by making sure people can find it.
Exactly. And you might be thinking, okay, but these core updates, they happen several times a year.
Do I have to be constantly chasing the algorithm?
You're making changes every few months.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting.
And it's really not a sustainable way to approach it.
Okay, so what is?
The key is to build a strong foundation of really high-quality content. That people-first content we talked about. That way you're setting yourself up for success no matter what Google throws your way.
So instead of trying to outsmart Google, you just focus on building something truly valuable.
That's it.
Solid advice. And I think that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive.
When we talk about these long-term changes, it reminds me of this website owner I talked to.
Oh, yeah.
They totally revamped their blog.
Interesting. What do they do?
Well, they went from posting like those short, quick articles to creating these in-depth guides, really digging deep into the topics.
I like that. What happened?
Well, took a while, like maybe 4 or 5 months, but they finally saw a real boost in their rankings.
Okay, so it paid off.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It wasn't just a quick bump. The traffic just kept growing.
Right.
Because they were giving people what they wanted, valuable content that people were searching for.
Content that kept people on the page. That makes sense. It's like, you wouldn't expect to just throw up some walls and call it a day.
Exactly.
You've got to lay that strong foundation first.
That's it. And that foundation is your content, the good stuff.
Makes sense. You mentioned those self-assessment questions earlier. I was wondering if we could take a closer look at some of them. One that really stuck with me was, does your content provide original information? Reporting, research, or analysis?
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
You can't just repeat what everyone else is saying.
Right.
You got to bring something new to the table.
Yeah.
Like your own insights, research you've done, or even a fresh take on something everyone's talking about.
That's a good point. Let's say I'm a small business owner. Like I sell, I don't know, handmade jewelry. What would that look like for me?
Okay, so think about what your ideal customer wants to know.
Okay.
Maybe they're searching for how to choose the right gemstone.
Right.
Or care tips for different types of jewelry.
Makes sense.
So you could create like blog posts or videos that answer those questions.
Okay, yeah.
And don't be afraid to show off what you know.
Yeah.
Share your design process, the story behind your brand.
It's about making them feel like they're getting something special from you, something unique.
Exactly. And another big part of this whole people first thing is, making sure your website actually works.
Oh, good point.
Is it easy to get around?
To navigate, yeah.
Right. Does it load quickly on phones, computers, all that?
So even if your content is great, if your website's like clunky and slow,
It's a problem.
people are just going to leave, right?
Sadly, yeah. A lot of times they will. Think about it. If you click a link and the page takes forever,
Oh, I'm gone.
you're hitting that back button.
100%.
And Google gets that.
Hmm.
They want people to have a smooth experience.
Yeah.
So they're going to favor the websites that are, technically optimized.
That are easy to use.
Right.
Okay, so we've got great content, a website that's working well, it's all coming together. But how do we know if it's actually working?
The million-dollar question.
Right. Like, when can we expect to see some results from all this work?
And as we've been saying, patience is super important. The source says it can take, anywhere from a few days to several months. It's a range.
It really is. I feel like a broken record, but it's worth repeating. No overnight miracles here. This is about, like we said, that long-term sustainable growth, not some quick fix you see in an ad.
It's true. It's like planting a garden.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to see, a beautiful flourishing garden the day after you plant those seeds.
Right. It takes time.
It does. You got to nurture it. You have a time to grow. Be patient. It all comes back to patience.
I like that. So what advice would you give to someone who's, maybe feeling a little discouraged, like they're working hard but not seeing results yet?
First of all, don't panic. It's so easy to get caught up in those day-to-day changes.
Ups and downs.
Right. But remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Long game.
Yes. Focus on that amazing content, make sure your website's running smoothly, and trust that Google will see what you're doing eventually.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
It's easy to feel like these algorithms have all the power, like we're at their mercy. But the truth is, we're not.
We're not.
There's power in understanding how they work.
Absolutely.
It means we can actually have a say in our own success.
100%.
And remember, Google wants the same thing you want. They want to give people the best search results possible.
So we're all on the same team here.
We are.
Okay, we've covered a lot today. The restaurant analogy, Google Search Console, self-assessment, what good content looks like, and being patient. What else is there? Did we miss anything important?
There's one more thing that I think we should talk about.
Okay, what kind?
It's something that comes up a lot when people talk about SEO. And that's this idea of, gaming the system.
Gaming the system. Okay, yeah.
This idea that you can somehow trick Google into ranking your website higher by, using sneaky tactics.
Oh, yeah. You see those ads all the time. Get to the top of Google in 24 hours.
Right. Too good to be true.
Definitely too good to be true.
And usually it is. These schemes might work for a little bit,
But
but they're not going to last. Google is constantly catching up.
it's like a game of whack-a-mole. Exactly. You might get away with it for a minute, but then, bam, Google catches on.
And then what happens?
Penalties.
Oh, no. Like what kind of penalties?
I could see your rankings drop, or even worse, get kicked off of Google completely,
Ouch. So your website just disappears.
basically.
Okay, so those quick fixes are a bad idea. Got it.
They are. The right way to do this is what we've been talking about this whole time.
Focus on the good stuff.
Yes. High-quality content, a website that's easy to use, and patience. I know it's
Yeah.
not flashy, but it works.
It's the real deal.
It is.
It's funny. We started off talking about this mysterious Google update, but I think we've actually explained it pretty well.
I think we have.
It's not about magic tricks or secret codes. It's about understanding what Google wants and, working with them, not against them.
I agree. And I think the biggest takeaway here is this. Don't be scared of these updates.
Yeah.
If you do things the right way, they're actually a good thing. A chance to make your website even better and reach more people.
That's a great way to look at it. So to everyone listening, don't freak out when you hear about the next core update. See it as an opportunity.
An opportunity to step up your game
Exactly.
and create something really awesome for your audience.
And remember, things are always changing online.
Always.
What works today might not work tomorrow. So
Definitely curious.
keep learning and never stop experimenting.
That's the key.
Amazing advice. And that's a wrap for part 2 of our deep dive on Google Search Core updates. So we've talked about how to approach these updates, but Google's always changing things up, right? It makes you wonder,
What's that?
can you ever really win at SEO?
Ooh, good question.
Or is it just this never-ending chase?
It's a question a lot of people have. I think it comes down to this. You got to shift your mindset.
Okay, how so?
Stop thinking of SEO as a game you can win.
Right.
Think of it more like an ongoing thing, always improving,
So not about finding that one magic trick that shoots you to the top.
Nope. It's more about consistency. Great content, website that works well, and being ready to adapt,
Mm-hmm.
because the web changes all the time.
Always changing. It's what was that analogy we used?
The garden,
The garden, right. You're always taking care of it.
always tending to it,
Mm-hmm.
pruning, weeding, planting new stuff
Yeah.
to keep it healthy and growing.
Love that. So instead of trying to outsmart Google, we should just focus on building a great website.
That's it. Simple, right?
It sounds almost too simple.
It is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
True.
It takes work, dedication, and a willingness to learn, but it's worth it.
Definitely worth it. So if we had to sum it all up, give our listeners one key takeaway, what would it be?
Remember this. Google wants to give people the best search experience possible.
Okay, yeah.
And the best way to help them do that is to build a website that's, helpful, informative, easy to use.
People first. It all comes back to that.
It does. Put your audience first, create something great for them, and the rest will follow.
I like that. And you know what? It's easy to get stressed about all this SEO stuff, but it really doesn't have to be that complicated.
It doesn't.
The next time you hear about a Google Core update, take a deep breath. Remember what we talked about today.
And focus on your audience.
Focus on them. Build something amazing.
Exactly. And you know what else? Have fun with it. The web is a powerful thing. Use it to share your passion. Connect with people. Make a difference.
I love that. Great reminder. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Google Search Core updates.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep and never stop exploring.